Content disclaimer. The views expressed in this video are solely those of the host, collaborator, and contributor and do not necessarily represent the views of Royal Productions OWC LLC. We encourage diverse perspectives and open dialogue. If you have any concerns, please contact us at info@royalproductionsowc.com. Thank you for being a part of the RPOWC community. Greetings, Galaxians, and welcome to another episode of the Hybrid Files. This episode is Commodification of Social Constructs. Oh my God, that can be commodified too? Yes, it's a commodity. It's a product. Oh boy, let's get into it. Social constructs. What kind of social constructs am I talking about? Well, we already know the construct of race. Race is not a real thing, although people treat it as a real thing. It's not a real thing. This is not a separate race. Oh my God. It's not a separate race. No, it's not. This is an evolutionary solution to an environmental problem. Did you think Asians' eyes, the way that they're constructed, indicates a separate race? No, it does not. No, it does not. That's an evolutionary solution to an environmental problem. Oh, how smart and intelligent the human body is, but it does not get credit for it. You know what gets credit? Social constructs. Because it's a little element of I don't feel like thinking today. I'm just going to think this about you because it's here in my head and it doesn't make my brain hurt. The basis for most social constructs. Some social constructs have a political purpose. Some social constructs are like really weird looking Venn diagrams and the intersections are crazy. Yeah. Social construct of race, social construct of death, social construct of life and living. Because you got to have a definition. If somebody's really living a life, when you unplug them from the, people struggle with that. And it's time you have a loved one who's at that journey, and that's a struggle. That's not an easy, maybe for some people it is. But for general purpose, for the purpose of this conversation, that's not easy. Because you have to have a concept of life and living and be the one who says this is not living, and they wouldn't think this is living. So, right? How about the social construct of gender? That's a hot topic. Is it made up? Is it not? Are there more than two? Are there not? Political agenda and biological actuality. Social constructs. Beauty, social construct. How about age? Age is a social construct, and it can go either way. It could go into constructive or destructive. Age is a social construct, and it can be used to literally render destruction everywhere. Or it can be constructive. It's a social construct. Right? It's not talking about developmental phases of a human being. Because a teenager is a social construct. We didn't have teenagers before. We had seen and not be heard. And then we had the American dream. And from that came a specific type of behavior of restlessness within a certain age group, within a certain group who are in a certain phase of their life of hormones. And what do? We used, there used to be a difference. There's a difference, which has a lot of conversations in it because of age, right? And we don't double down on the fact that we want a certain developmental phase respected because of its inability to see properly and see danger properly. And we don't want to double down on that, so we call age. Certain people in certain developmental phases do not need to be interacting with other people in certain developmental phases. It's like someone who literally targets those who are, how shall I say this? Those who are not, who don't have common uh, ability to pick up on nuance and pick up on subtle language. They're very limited in what they can deduce. Some people target them, and that is for me, and I think for most people, that is beyond the pale of appropriate. And some people who are in a different developmental phase or a different ability to pick up on certain things and target people who don't pick up on certain things, it's kind of inappropriate. It's kind of icky. The social construct of class. Hierarchy is a made-up thing by humans who want certain mentalities to exist in the external world to make them feel good. It's what my mother called bringing down something to your level, as opposed to you rising up to the level of the actual thing that you don't understand. You bring it down to your level. She told me, don't do that. Try and understand it from where it is, and then you rise up to that level of understanding. Don't bring it down to your level of understanding. Rise up to the level of what the thing is and understand it at that level. Because then you do the stretching, you do the transformation, you elevate your thinking when you do that. When you do this, okay. But I mean, I'll, what do they call it? I'll acquiesce my point and understand that some people don't learn that way. But there is a mentality that is kind of fostered when you bring something down to your level of understanding, meaning you don't have to do any stretching to understand something else. And then you're surprised about how people don't want to let go of their belief systems as far as, actuality versus delusion. Why people have such a dissonance moment. Why people have such a dissonance moment when you bring facts to them and they can't wrap their mind around it is because they expect that which is very complex in its actuality to be brought down and reduced into these very simple block consumable pieces of ideas, and it doesn't work like that. Some things you can't bring it down. You have to do the stretching and rise to understand it at the level that it's at. And then some people just, because of that, they're just never going to get it, and it's just up. It's just, oh well, right? You get a lot of fallout for that, right? But the commodity of social constructs is because there are things like I talked about in the previous episode, there are meta products. Meta products would be like washers, bolts, nuts, screws, nails that you hammer, the grease that you use, the glue that you use to keep things together, to build things. Those are meta products, right? I mean, somebody has to make the paper clips. Somebody has to make the nails. A gun is not a viable product without bullets. You're just making an empty shell capable of projectile something, but there's no ammunition. If ammunition is never made, the point of the gun is kind of, okay, what did you make this for? How is this supposed to be used? Is this a very intricate club where it has all these things about its shape, but you all you're doing is you're using it as a really intricate looking bat or hammer, club weapon, right? So there's meta products that build other products. It's like there's metadata about, that's information about the actual data. So you have the social constructs like race, age, beauty, gender, class, trends is a social construct, right? The fact a type of intelligence can be a social construct, because there's all types of intelligence, but not all types of intelligence is acknowledged. Only certain types of intelligence are acknowledged, and then that type that is chosen to be the intelligence is literally slated for everybody to rise up to or to have in order to be deemed intelligent. So that's a type of construct, right? And then you have what is another construct? The construct of a certain characteristic, the construct of strength. That could be a double-edged sword. And it depending on the generation, it could be strength could mean anything. Strength could mean I'm able to take a beating and still stay in the marriage. That's strength to some people. When you can't do that, you're being weak to some people. So strength is defined in the amount of abuse you can take, which makes strength a construct, because it has, for different perspectives and life seasons, for different people who were born in different years or decades, they have different definitions of what strength is. Masculinity and femininity, constructs. Divine entities, construct, right? The way you think about them is the construct, actually. What they are is still escapable. We can't, it's a little bit beyond us. That's why we have the language that we have around it, whether it be Hinduism, Christianity, Catholicism, Judaism, all of the religions, right? They're constructs. They're things that humans made up in order to try and figure out a political leverage, social leverage, just leverage within yourself. You need to know that something exists beyond you, that it makes this make sense, because the randomness of life just doesn't make sense to most people. And so you need an explanation. So the explanation of life could be a construct, something that's made up in order to make sense of something else. And depending on the machinations of a specific society, it can lead to destruction or construction, right? But we're talking about the American commodified mind. So what do social constructs usually do in a store, a country that's a store? It defines product type, it defines product category, it defines how you are going to be a human being in the space that you're in, and whether that gets perceived to be a positive or negative, right? Certain behaviors are constructs because they are literally influenced by the environment that they're in. Women are, in my opinion, women are water. We're influenced by the moon because of the way that we're made and the ability to hold life and incubate life for a period of time. And that whole system is influenced by an external celestial body, for lack of a different language. I only speak one language, so that's the only thing I can call it. Right? And we adapt. Women adapt to all sorts of things, negative, bad, whatever. We get put into constructs all the time. There's the Gilded Age construct. There's the French impression, if you want to think about it in art terms, construct. There's the slave construct for Black women, right? And for Black men, that's a construct. It's not just about what we look like, but the construct of treatment. That's a construct. You have to construct that type of treatment. You have to mentally commit on a recurring basis. You can't do it once, set it and forget it. As far as your mindset, you have to keep reinforcing that, because the natural part of you that doesn't do racism will pipe up and start, you know, giving you dissonance to the point where it's going to drive you crazy. So you have to pick a side, right? And your environment reinforces that. You have to pick a side. You have to pick it. You have to choose it on a daily basis. You have to be taught it daily basis. Just like I forget what old show. Shoot, I forget what it was. What's the name of that movie? And it has the song, "You have to be carefully taught." You have to be taught all the time that you are to hate these people. You are not to do, interact with these people. They are reduced. They are less than. They are not the greatest. You have to reinforce. Reinforcement is, by its very definition of what the word is meaning or trying to connotate or trying to give meaning to, is a recurring action. That's what reinforcement is. It has a recurrence element or component to it. So it's not something that's absolute. That's like seeing nature is dead. Nature is not dead. The minute human activity stops, nature regains everything, meaning nature was just held back. It wasn't ended. You can't kill nature. You didn't make it, so you can't destroy it. So the commodification of a social construct literally allows or starts to define the interaction of people, and it starts to influence behavior that can be constructive or destructive. So like I said, social constructs are meta products. They are the product. They are the nuts and bolts, the washers, the nails, the glue, the hot glue gun, the spring that you might put into the triggers of something that literally ekes something out, right? The media is a meta product. How do you get messaging out that you need everybody to buy into, if they are to buy anything at all? That's a meta product. As much as we are in love with protesting, it's also being put out there as a meta product. It's not effective if you think about it. What has protesting ever accomplished except a delay in the inevitable? If you do not do anything to the root cause of anything, you will not accomplish what you think you're going to accomplish. It always has to be the root cause that has to be dealt with, not the overall symptoms. It has to be the root cause that's dealt with. The root cause is never to be dealt with. It must always be obfuscated. It must always be hidden. It must be unspoken. It must be not unacknowledged. It must be quote unquote the veneer of I do not know. Mm, mm. You cannot do this store without the meta products. And those would also include social constructs, ideals that when you think about them and really parse them apart, they don't make any sense for the humanness that we are. It's literally creating behaviors that are creating things in our mind that don't necessarily make sense to us, but given our nature to adapt, especially women have a high nature to adapt, it causes these conflicts within our mind and in our, I would say, spirit and soul. We know something is not right, but just like the silent generation, you don't make waves, you just go along to get along. Because there's just, it's really frenetic here. We're like right at the bottom here. We're hungry, we're going through a depression, there's been a dust bowl, and there's been a war, right? And so you just keep silent. You don't talk about it. You make up constructs, you adapt in your mind. Because where the mind is free to go, the body will follow. Hmm? What about the construct of hustle culture? That's a construct, right? Or the um, concept of children being a commodity. That's a construct. We have very strange ideas about children. It's conflicting. I shouldn't say strange. It's in conflict. We want them to be here, but we do everything in our power to put them here. And then we have a weird disconnect or dissonance event in our minds and say, oh, this should not happen, but we do this over here. So this would be children are innocent. They should not be messed with. They should not be. But the whole reason you bring them here is not for their sake, it's for your sake. It's an I statement that brings them here. I want a baby. I want a baby. Right. And then, so now they're here and you have a reality that's not necessarily talked about because everybody wants to say, oh, having children or whatever they're having, right? So that's another construct, the construct of childbearing and having family. That's a construct. And children are not necessarily safe within that journey because you have foster care, you have adoption, and you have people who are coming out of this experience for the first time feeling able to talk to a greater number of people about it, to find other people who have had the same experience and connecting, and they're literally saying this was not a good thing. So there's this construct that children are sacred, but only to the point where, again, you can extract value from them, either inappropriately or I shouldn't even use that. It's not a matter of a question of appropriate or inappropriate. It's the fact that it's an extraction at all because they're children. And it's weird that we need to extract something from a child or a human person who has a baby child, a baby phase, and we feel there must be some type of extraction because if you think about it, advertising is inappropriate for children. All of it. There is no appropriate advertising for children. Nothing about it. Children should never be advertised to, in my opinion. They are not consumers. But you're using them as a demographical construct, making yourself okay with the fact that you're targeting children in order to get the parent to buy something, thereby giving you money, extracting something from them using the child. If children didn't exist, if basically, if I said it in the birth, commodification of birth and babies, if we had a different ushering in of this event, if it was held to an actual, real, genuine sacredness, you wouldn't have the children to advertise to, because we would really be careful about who we bring in here. Not a lot of people would be made. Not a lot of people would be here. Right? So the act of bringing children here is a construct sometimes. Sometimes it's a construct. Sometimes it's a thing that is literally generated within you to want, right? A lot of women say, I just did this because it's what it was expected of me. What a wild reason that we have put upon ourselves to make people, to make more people. It was just something that was expected of me. Ooh, did you like your kids? I'm not asking about love. What Tina Turner said, love ain't got shit to do with it. Did you like your kids? Everybody loves the kids, sure. Okay. Did you like your kids? Did they like you? Did that like extend past the whole young youth phase or baby phase? Did they become somebody that you like? Are you somebody that they like? Hmm. And that's a construct that people buy into. That your children are going to love you forever and ever. No, they don't. Depending on how that journey was between 0 and 18, for the most part, because some states don't have a age of consent. That's a construct. That's a construct deep rooted in religion, by the way. A specific religion, Abrahamic religion. Whole nother conversation, right? Because that age of consent, that's a construct conveniently used for destruction, in my opinion. Conveniently used for destruction. Conveniently used to say and justify destructive behavior against another human being who doesn't have the development yet to thwart off Svengalis and manipulators and narcissistic abuse and other types of abuse. Like, some people in certain seasons of their lives should just leave other people alone when they're in another certain season of their life. Apparently something's going on in the complex, dog related, and my dog has lost its mind. I love my baby. He's just being Captain Save a Dog. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I think that social constructs should really be eliminated, because then you can actually deal with people authentically instead of people's representative. Race is a very sticky wicket that just doesn't have any basis in scientific fact, to be honest with you. But people persist. I know they're trying to figure it out, like what's ethnicity, what's nationality, what is what's a phenotype, what's race. Race is a it doesn't exist. That whole language about that came out of anthropology and and basically anthropological categorization. Um, it was literally thought of by men who had very myopic views about people, who wanted to see themselves as elevated above people. That whole mindset of I can't see myself unless I see you below me and see myself above you. That's a very caustic mentality. It's very, it has destructive elements in it. I must see myself above you and see you as below me in order to see myself completely. Otherwise, I cannot see myself. I mean, it's literally a vampire's lament, if you ask me. I can't see myself. Who can't see themselves? Usually, the only characters I've ever seen who can't see themselves are vampires. So this is a complaint of a vampire. I can't see myself unless I see myself above you. I can't see myself. How do I know I'm winning if there's no losers in life? But hmm, I guess that concludes our episode of the commodification of social constructs. They're metadata, people. They're just metadata, meta products. Social constructs are meta products, things you use to make other things so that you can benefit in the store of America. The United Store of America is not even that united. Hmm. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please comment down below what you think a meta product is. Is there any other meta products you can think of that are social constructs, really, to set up the viability of selling certain things as a product, certain ideation, certain concepts? I mean, ageism isn't, you know, let me look down upon you because you are no longer viable. I see your planned obsolescence off into the distance, and I can't get with that. Or the inappropriate use of age to justify, hey, what's wrong with it? Yeah, so much wrong with it. You're weird and creepy and a little bit pervy. Cut it out, right? When we should just speak on it as to what it is. No, leave the kids alone. You're creepy. Leave the kids alone. Anyway, again, this concludes the episode 11, the commodification of social constructs. I hope you enjoyed the season so far. I hope you've learned a couple of things, thought about something differently. And if you do not agree, please comment. I'd love to learn more things, especially with citations of things to read on my own. I appreciate that. I don't mind learning something new. Happy galaxying, people. Happy galaxying.